dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
All right, welcome into the Arrowhead podcast. It is Thursday, January 8th. That means it is time for the OG Hour. Patrick Allen here, back with you live. Happy New Year, everybody. It's been a minute since we've all touched base. Obviously, we were here for the post-game show, if you were there for that. But as far as the OG Hour goes, we had a pre-recorded episode for the holiday, and I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas and is having a wonderful New Year so far. How's everybody's resolutions going? I am attempting to engage in dry January. Now that started for me on January 2nd. I don't know. Do you guys do this? Everybody does the dry January. I'm doing it because I would like to lose a few pounds. God knows I could stand to do that. And that'll help me. But I start on January 2nd because you can't. I'm having a glass of wine on New Year's Day. That's just, I think that goes without saying. For me, the holiday binge eating and drinking doesn't stop once the calendar turns over. You got to know that's the last holiday is New Year's Day. So shout out to everybody in the chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. Want to get a lot of Chiefs fans in here to chop it up with us. Tons going on right now. It is just me this week. We had a scheduling conflict with old Verderam, who was supposed to be here today. So we'll see him in a couple of weeks. And man, we're not that far from the Super Bowl, although it is depressing that the Chiefs this year will not be at the Super Bowl. I've gotten so used to going. One of my favorite things about being, at the Super Bowl, working there every year, is going to the store when it opens up and seeing all the really interesting, unique Super Bowl merchandise that they have with all of the Chiefs logos on it. And there will be some Chiefs memorabilia at that store this year, but it's not going to be, because they have stuff for every team, because everybody goes to the Super Bowl, all the fans, but it won't be the kind of supply that we normally get, which is really sad. Shout out to No Way, shout out to Gary. How you guys doing? I hope everybody's ready for the offseason. I was expecting the chat to be a little bit more hopping. There's lots of news flowing right now. Not a ton of Chiefs specific news, but a lot of news that is going to impact the Chiefs and their offseason one way or another. So I understand it takes, maybe some people are going to take some time off. No playoffs, no Super Bowl, maybe actually spend some time with their family. I'm looking forward to not having to podcast every weekend in January and into February this year. It's going to be kind of nice, but I'd much rather the Chiefs were in the playoffs. So we're going to get to it. We got some news. We got some questions we want to dive into about kind of what happened this year and what we're looking for when we start to turn the corner to the NFL draft. As Gary points out, let's look forward to the 9th pick in the draft. That's right. I can't. If you told me that the Chiefs were going to have the 9th pick in the NFL draft back in August, you could have knocked me over with a feather. What a disaster. You would think that, look, I don't think any of us expected the Chiefs' reign to just continue every year. They were going to go to the AFC Championship game every year of Mahomes' career. The run that they've had has been absolutely incredible. But I think we all thought, we'd get in there and lose in the divisional round or something, or lose in the AFC Championship game again, like we did to the Bengals a few years back. I don't think any of us thought we were going to go from getting blown out in the Super Bowl to not even making the playoffs and not winning the AFC West. So that's been painful, and that's been tough and frustrating. But I think there's some good that's going to come from it. And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But let's dive into the news. So the big one is the first kind of shakeup in the Chiefs coaching staff has happened. We expected that there would be some changes, but we didn't know exactly what. Wide receiver coach Connor Embree has been fired by the team. Look, Connor Embree he's not a popular figure among the Chiefs kingdom. The receivers, by and large, over the last few years have not been good. I believe he originally came in as a defensive guy, then was like an offensive quality control coach, then eventually went into coaching the wide receivers. And I've been a big defender of Andy and his decision making. I haven't said that he's perfect, but this is one of those things where, and I've defended Connor Embree in the past, in that I often say it's okay for us to admit that what we don't know, how do you know if somebody's a good coach or not? Yeah, you can point to the results, but correlation, causation, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, right, the buck does stop with you. You're the coach. You're the wide receiver coach. And if wide receivers aren't developing, or things aren't going well at the wide receiver position, it's going to be hard for you to keep your job. I do think folks are a little unfair sometimes. Does he get credit for the development of Rashee Rice? Sometimes we tend to focus on the negative, but at the end of the day, you wanted to see more out of Xavier Worthy. Sky Moore didn't work out. A lot of these other ancillary pieces that they've had floating around, like Nico Remigio and stuff like that, these guys haven't taken off. So it's really important, coach. Having your coaching staff locked in is really important, and it just hasn't worked out for Connor Embree. I'm going to pull up some tweets about this because I think it's instructive, and there's a little bit more information out there from, I believe it was Nate Taylor. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. So he was let go, and I believe it was Nate Taylor said something along the lines of, Nate Taylor, of course, from ESPN and Only Weird Games over at KCSN. Great guy, friend of the show. That there was frustration among the Chiefs receivers with Connor Embree, and that I want to find the exact quote because I don't want to misquote. So give me just a second here. And if I seem slightly unprepared, that's Verderam's fault. Because I didn't know I was going to be solo. So I would have done a little bit more preparation. But that's okay. I'll give him the business next time. Yeah, so here's that the Chiefs receivers were beyond frustrated with the position coach Connor Embree. That DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce were more responsible for the development of Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice than the positional coach. And then that's an issue. And then it can explain some of the regression that Worthy had this year. Now, of course, Worthy was also injured this year. So that's one of the things with Andy that I call into question, which is the decision. You got to develop young people in any career or in any field, right? And give them opportunities. But in the NFL, and there are lots of people who become NFL coaches that didn't play at that level. And people should be given the opportunity to try to learn different parts of the game. But Connor Embree coaching the wide receivers when he wasn't a guy who played at that level, a wide receiver, talking to DeAndre Hopkins or developing people, it's tough, man. It's a tough look. And I wonder sometimes with Andy, and I think that this is a criticism that's been levied at this coaching staff kind of in general, which is that they're too focused on their own guys and having things done their way. And that can be a problem, right? Because if you hire a guy to like say Connor Embree, he teaches the receiver, and he wants the receivers taught. I don't know this. I'm just guessing here, but let's say that's the issue. Well, maybe then Andy's happy with the way that he's communicating things and coaching, but at the same time, there's no diversity of thought. There's something missing from what is being communicated that you would get if you say had a former wide receiver, former star NFL wide receiver who you're teaching the coaching ranks to, who can relate to the players on a certain level. It sounds like we've got a special guest who I was just talking smack on. It's Matt Verderam. He made it. We had a communication snafu, and I blamed it all on you.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm still typing in the chat here. Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, I thought, who cares? Doesn't matter what I thought. Yeah, I've got about 15 minutes to hang out with you. But in any event, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, but I'm guessing it's probably something to do with the offensive coordinator.
I'm getting there. We were talking about Connor Embree, who there were some interesting comments from
offensive coordinator.
Yeah, no, for sure. There were interesting comments about him from Nate Taylor, and that, he just wasn't a really good fit for the role, wasn't really a wide receiver guy before, worked his way into it. And I wanted to get, do you think that is a big fault of Andy's, that he likes to promote guys that he knows maybe that kind of parrot his coaching, but doesn't think about, hey, how's this guy going to relate to DeAndre Hopkins? What sort of extra value does he bring to the position?
I think Andy's a little bit too concerned sometimes with how much Andy likes these people, and less concerned with how well they can actually coach. Because, I mean, right now their running back is Todd Pinkston, or the running back's coach is Todd Pinkston. Todd Pinkston was an NFL wide receiver who's never coached running backs in his life at any level, and then just showed up with the Chiefs, and they were like, "Hey, what do you think about coaching these guys?" What the hell can Todd Pinkston tell anybody about how to be a running back? He wasn't a running back. Connor Embree, before he got to Kansas City, I mean, if you go and look, and I'll pull it up here so I'm not talking out of turn. I mean, nothing against the man, but before he got there, this was his entire history. Now, he played college football, to be fair, played UNLV, he played at Kansas, he was a running back. Okay. He then went to Blue Valley West High School and was the offensive coordinator, was a graduate assistant with the Jayhawks, went to Fairview High School in 2017 and was a wide receivers coach, and then just showed up in Kansas City and was a defensive assistant for 2 years, and then was made the offensive quality control coach, which is about the lowest title you can have for 2. And fine, he's a young guy, that's fine. Was there for 2 years, and then just out of nowhere, wide receivers coach. Why is he the wide receivers coach? Based on what? He wasn't even a receiver when he played. He worked in high school.
Why is a running back coaching wide receivers and a wide receiver coaching the running backs?
It's just so inane. Why? It's almost like Andy just wanted him to be on the staff. It's I don't know this. Put him here. Why? What rationale do you have other than your boys with him? And so I kind of blame the Connor Embree thing on Andy way more than I blame it on Connor Embree. It's like years ago when Dan Sorensen was just cooked and Ben Neiman wasn't good, and they just kept playing these guys. And we were on this show at the time, and I remember saying, I don't blame the players. I blame the coach. I blame the roster construction. You're asking these guys to do things they cannot do. You're asking Todd Pinkston to tell Isaiah Pacheco, who's played as a running back his entire life, how to run the ball when he's not a running back. That's like hiring Mitchell Schwartz to coach the linebackers.
Right.
What do you do? Why?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
And and so I'm not surprised that this is backfired spectacularly.
Yeah. And since we only have you for a few minutes, there are a couple of things I wanted to ask you today. And one is Rashee Rice. So as we were going to run down the news here, people, if you haven't heard, he hasn't. I want to be careful about exactly how I phrase this, just to be fair to Rashee. He hasn't. There are allegations of domestic violence, of which, at least as far as I know to this point, he has not been specifically named in, but they are allegations made by somebody that he has been with, who said that they were about the father of her child.
Right. Correct.
Right. So for all intents and purposes, it seems like it's pointing in his direction. But as far as I know, he has not been named in it. The Chiefs have been asked about it. They're aware of it. The NFL is aware of it. All that. There'll be an investigation.
They also didn't put his name in it.
Yeah, they didn't.
Ironic. Kind of odd.
So is it getting to the point with you? So Rashee Rice, a lot of people, we need to remember, he's going into the last year of his contract because he's a second-round pick.
Correct.
He's a good receiver when he's on the field and he's playing and he's not suspended or hurt.
Or just lacking any effort at all because he's jogging around the field for a third of his routes.
Or dropping the ball.
Right. Other than that, he's perfect.
Yeah. Is it with now two potential legal issues? Is it getting to the point with Rashee Rice where you've got to start now if you're the Chiefs thinking about a replacement and you're not feeling real great about, because like ideally, like timing wise, right? They think the world of him. They've said they think he's one of the best receivers in the league. Like they said that earlier this season. I don't know if that's true, but now you're going into the last year of his contract. His trade value is kaput, and you have the 9th pick in the draft.
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. Is it time to start drastically thinking about trying to replace him as your number one receiver?
Look, I mean, even if they don't, look, let's live in a world for a moment where the allegations, some or all, are accurate. First of all, just for my 2 cents, I don't know how the hell you can play that guy. Then you're going to keep that guy in the team. The guy is a time bomb off the field for all kinds of heinous stuff. If any of this is true, that's number one. Number two, let's live in a world where some of this is true and they still keep him. Okay, well, guess what? If some of this is proven true and they keep him, he's not starting week 1. I can tell you that much. Based on the fact that they wanted to hammer him last year, and it ended up going to 6 games. He's getting more than 6 games. Plus, there's also the side of it too. If this becomes a legal thing, to my understanding, I don't think there's been any charges filed. No. If there are, and he's somehow, and there's some legalese in this, he's looking at a 30-day jail sentence right now already. Like, what does that look? I mean, there's a lot of different tentacles to this. But to answer the question from just a pure football perspective, I would say that I don't think you can look at this any other way than they're not going to extend him. How can they extend this guy?
Right. It would be crazy.
They can't. Most they could do is give him a tag, maybe. But, I didn't know if they do that. If you're at 9 and Carnell Tate's on the board, I got to tell you, you got to think about it. Because, and Jordan Tyson, to Weston's point's another guy. Lemon's a guy. I'm not as familiar with Lemon. I was actually going to sit down and watch some stuff tonight. But I have watched Tyson. Tate I'm very familiar with. If you're the Chiefs, you got to at least think about it. Right? I mean, and by the way, if they were to cut Rashee Rice, he's got a $2 million cap hit, and they'd save $1.6 million cutting him. It's nothing to them financially. So, I mean, I just don't know how you can plan on him going forward. My big question from the football side of this, does it affect what they do with McDuffie? Because if they went into this offseason thinking okay, look, it's been obviously not very. I'm trying how to word this correctly. It's not been perfect with Rashee Rice by any stretch of the imagination. He's really talented, but you know what? We're going to give him $25 a year. Now, how the hell did you're going to give this guy $100 million? If any of this is true, you're going to give this guy $100 million bucks?
Right.
There's no way in hell I'm doing that. I'm not giving him that. I'm giving him half that. So that lends the question of, okay, well, if you're not going to keep him, would you just keep McDuffie? If you keep McDuffie, would you not keep Watson? Would you let him walk? Do you have the money? There's just so many things. But my short answer after giving a long one would be, yeah, man, I would basically operate as though he's not on the team. And and if he's there for another year, if the allegations aren't true, great. But I would operate like he's not even there.
If he's there, it's a bonus. And I think I've been thinking about it, the McDuffie thing almost actually the opposite way, because him now looking like he's not going to be somebody that you want to keep or can keep, that messes up your whole, you were in a position, you got the 9th pick in the draft. If Rashee Rice is in a knucklehead,
right, and
you're going to re-sign him, okay, maybe there's a lot of talk. Should they trade McDuffie? He's going to be very expensive. When we talk about this all the time on the show, as good as he is, he needs to be in the slot. That's where he's most effective. He can only take away one guy at a time, and they are strapped for money. And so you could trade him. Maybe you could get a first round pick for him. And so now if you're like, oh, well, we have a problem, we need to get a receiver now, when we wanted to try to get it, like, maybe you go into that and we're going to take our best player available. We're going to get one of the receivers. There's like 3 that they think could go in the top 10. We're going to get an edge rusher. We're going to get Caleb Downs and have another like Eric Berry, like enforcer at safety. Like now you're like, well, shit. You're looking at your wide receiver core and you're like, well, we got Xavier Worthy.
Right, who can't stay in bounds half the time.
Jalen Royals, who we wouldn't even put on the field.
Correct. Couldn't even play
until the clock was winding down. So that messes everything up. And it actually makes me think they should trade Trent McDuffie, because they need to have a defense and all that stuff. They got to fix the offense because they have Patrick Mahomes. Like at the end of the day, their best chance to win is Patrick Mahomes. He's their best player. So you can't send him out there with Brashard Smith and Xavier Worthy and be like, yeah, we're going to figure this out.
Right.
So I actually think they should move. If they can get a first round pick for him this year, that's a question I have for you before you go here. Do you think they could get a first rounder for McDuffie, given what Sauce Gardner went for? And I know he doesn't play outside the best.
I think it either would be a late first, or if they traded to a team that wasn't that good, an early second and another pick, like a second and a fifth or something like that. Second, maybe even a fourth. But yeah, I think they could. Rice, they will get nothing for if any of these allegations are true. And even if they aren't true, he has such a background that they're not going to get a premium pick for him because he's a train wreck, and based on what he's already been found to have done in other situations. And then there's this allegation that's now fair or unfair, we don't know, hanging over his head, right? And so, and then there's all these off-field concerns that he had even coming out of college. I mean, I can tell you for a fact there were teams that had him off their board for the draft because of his character issues. Look, I'm on the record as saying I would trade him and McDuffie, and that was before any of this came out, because I just think if you're the Chiefs, you need to acquire as many picks as you can. I'd also argue that, look, as great as Trent McDuffie is, if they sign Watson and Cook and you've got Williams, like that defense, if you add some pass rush, is still fine. Like, that defense is not bad. It just needs a pass rush. And offensively, I think you need a running back, obviously. And then you got to rebuild the receiver room, which has been this ongoing problem for them since Tyreek Hill wasn't there, or straight away. They need to figure it out. But I don't know. I think, look, from talking to people in the building, I can tell you, I expect this to be a very, very churning offseason. They're going to make a lot of different moves. And I think it might even take more than one offseason. But they're not going to sit pat. They can't. They know that. I think we're already seeing that with the coaching staff. And I think the roster, in fact, I know the roster is going to follow suit. They're going to make a lot of different decisions, and McDuffie and Rice might be part of that.
I know you got to go real quick before you leave, and thank you for hopping in. With the information you know now, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about the draft. Mm-hmm. With the information you have right now, Chiefs are on the clock, and one of the top 2 wide receivers is there, and one of the top 2 edge rushers is there. Which one do you pick?
Edge. Yeah, I think knowing what I know about the way they feel about the roster, edge. Although, again, this Rashee Rice stuff might change that. That I don't know. But going into this week, let's just say, edge. I would say unequivocally that if you ask them, at least prior to this Rice, the allegations coming out, top 2 needs, not even close. Edge rush, running back.
All right. That's Matt Verderam, Sports Illustrated, one of the OGs. Thank you, buddy. All right. Yeah, I look at it like if asking myself that same question, and let me know what you guys think in the chat. I think I would take the receiver, if only because of this. You have Patrick Mahomes, and he needs. This is your chance to get him another blue chip wide receiver that you can have for 5 years on a manageable contract. And I think in general, wide receivers that people take like that high in the top 10, they usually, now it happens, but they usually work out. They usually don't bust. I know the Bengals took like John Ross at number 9. So it's possible, but Ohio State's a wide receiver factory. These guys all perform in the NFL. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't taken off quite yet, but he's going to be a good wide receiver. He's not in a great situation. So I think I lean receiver. Like if Carnell Tate was there, I think I lean that way. But on the flip side of that, edge rushers are so impactful. They're so expensive. Once they get to that second contract, that if you think you can find another wide receiver and develop Xavier Worthy like later in the draft, because here's what I know. Almost certainly the Chiefs are not going to get a blue chip pass rusher at any other point in the draft than number 9. And they might even need to move up a little bit to get it there. So like say they trade Trent McDuffie and they get like an early second or something for him. Now they've got a couple early seconds. If there's a wide receiver they really like, they could move up. We've seen guys like DK Metcalf go in the second round. It's not impossible to find a wide receiver. I think they're harder to find. I think it's a little less obvious sometimes, but you can get them later in the draft. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Weston says the hit rate that high is like over 70%. Donnie says they just signed Karlaftis off the edge. Yes, they do have Karlaftis, but Karlaftis in my view, he's a starter. He is good. He's like a 7 sack, 8 sack guy, maybe in a really good year, 10 sack guy. But look, he could still continue to develop, of course, but I don't think he's a difference maker on his own. He benefits from the fact that so much attention goes to Chris Jones. And so I don't think his ceiling is as high as what you want. Remember, Chris Jones is on his way out. So when are you going to have a chance to get a blue chip pass rusher? And they may not. And that's the thing that scares me about the pass rushers in this draft. I'm just not sure. They're good. I like them, but they cannot get if they try to draft a pass rusher and they get it wrong, devastating blow to the franchise. So they have to be sure. And I know I said earlier that I think that they should go with the wide receiver, but I don't know, man. Maybe not. Maybe they should take this opportunity to get that pass rusher and try to figure out wide receiver another way. It's just a lot of needs. I wish they had 2 top 10 picks. Gary says Karlaftis is a bull rusher. We need a speed rusher off the edge. Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? I mentioned this on the post-game show over the weekend, but Karlaftis he's an effort guy. He's strong. He's going to wear you down. But there's not a lot of times where it's like, boom, he's in the backfield. He's all over a guy like you see from like somebody like Myles Garrett. And the Chiefs really need that, especially if they're going to trade McDuffie and they're not going to be quite as good in the back end. The best way to cover that up, young and developing DBs is with a pass rush. Don't make them cover all day back there. And right now, that's been a big problem for this defense. So they should be able to get a really good player no matter what. I mean, safeties don't often go really high, but I think Caleb Downs is a game changer. I think he's on the Eric Berry level of potential impact, and he could be there at number 9. The pass rushers could be gone. So you heard Verderam say it. He talks to people in the building, and there's going to be turnover. They're not going to status quo this. So it's going to be probably the most interesting Chiefs offseason in a really, really long time. And I'm excited for it. And we got a few more things to get to here. And I want to hear from you guys. But I've got some messages from our sponsors. And the first one is from our friends at Goldbelly. Have you heard of Goldbelly, by the way? It's this amazing site I order from all the time, where you can get some of the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S., and it's perfect for game day, Valentine's Day, anything else you got going on. Goldbelly will ship you, like, you guys know I'm in Chicago, right? You can get iconic deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's. Lou Malnati's fantastic. There's one by my house. It's a huge problem for me. The original buffalo wings from Anchor Bar and Buffalo. Guy Fieri's unbelievable trash can nachos, real cheesesteak, or even legendary Franklin's barbecue straight from Texas to your door. You got Valentine's Day coming up. They've also got great gifts like the award-winning dinners from Peter Luger's Steakhouse, world-famous macaroons from Luderie, and even the exact cake served at JFK's wedding to Jackie O. So before they ever sponsored this podcast, for Christmas, I ordered the famous Christmas pie cakein from Goldbelly. I saw it advertised on TikTok. Let me tell you guys, this sucker, I got it for Christmas for the family. It is, it's like a cherry swirl cheesecake, red velvet cake, and chocolate pecan pie. It's like all stacked together, and then it's like wrapped in like a buttercream frosting with sprinkles and stuff. It's unbelievable. Feeds like 10 to 12 people. It wasn't, it was so much cake. It was worth the money because it fed everybody, and we had leftovers. And then when we found out they were sponsoring the podcast, they hooked me up with an entire brisket, a full brisket from Snow's Barbecue in Texas. Now, I know this is a Kansas City barbecue podcast, and I don't get down to Texas a lot, and I'm very loyal to Kansas City barbecue, but this brisket was unbelievable. They said, they flash freeze it. I order from Joe's in Kansas City all the time too, and they do the same thing. They flash freeze it. I heated it up in the oven in a pan of water. It was fine. In terms of, it wasn't dry, it didn't dry out. It tasted like it just came out of the smoker. It was absolutely fantastic. So you guys should check them out because they have all these cool things. And with Valentine's Day coming up, you can get like the Jackie O cake for your girl or whatever. Like there's lots of, it's something special and unique that if you're not in Chicago and you want to do deep dish pizza, it's like a really cool and fun, interesting gift to get something without actually having to spend the money to travel there. So if you're looking to turn your game day into an unforgettable experience with friends, or you want to impress loved ones on Valentine's Day, go to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code Arrowhead Addict. That's goldbelly.com. Code Arrowhead Addict. You'll get 20% off your first order. I'm going to use that code. Listen, I love all of our sponsors. I want Goldbelly to be a mainstay here because it's good for me. They've got unbelievable foods that I want to order. So if you ever, when I'm always pleading for you to support our sponsors, support Goldbelly. Go there right now. Order something. Get the trash can nachos. Those look really good. And use our code Arrowhead, just Arrowhead, not Arrowhead Addict, for 20% off. Appreciate you guys. All right, let's get back into the Chiefs talk. Man, I'm so hungry now. I talked with producer Joanne for like 10 minutes before the show started about the Christmas pie cake, and I sent her pictures of it. So like I'm in bad shape right now because I was looking at pictures of cake. I started the show off talking about how I'm trying to lose weight for the old New Year's resolution. Now I'm a shambles. You got Goldbelly involved here. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Anyway, so back to the Chiefs. I have too many tabs open. Do you guys ever do that at work? Where you just you can't find your podcast outline when you're podcasting because you've got so many tabs open that you're just a disaster, an unorganized human being. That's me right now. So back to Connor Embree. So now that where the shakeup's happening, and that's a signal, right? Like he's a lower level guy, but like it's a shakeup to the offense. And I didn't get a chance to ask Verderam this, but I want to know from you guys in the chat, how big and drastic do you think the shakeup will be? Now, based on what Verderam said, it is going to be a big shakeup. at least in terms of the roster. But what about the coaching staff? Because I think that's where people have a lot of qualms with Andy, and they're saying like, "Hey, Andy, we know you're an offensive genius, but we think the offense it needs some new ideas. It needs to be spruced up a little bit." Now, I believe firmly that Andy is capable of doing that by himself, but that doesn't mean, you hear me talk about diversity of thought all the time and why it's so important, that having diversity of thought and voice in his coaching staff isn't going to be a bad thing. Mike McDaniel got let go today from the Miami Dolphins. We've seen how explosive some of his offenses have been there, even without Tyreek Hill, a guy like Devon Achane running around. So that's really intriguing. Another intriguing name that's out there is Cliff Kingsbury, who, of course, coached Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, also known for his offense. So a lot of people are talking about, a new potential offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Matt Nagy's contract is up. He's got, I think, at least 3 head coaching interviews. And because he doesn't call plays, the reports out there right now are that even if he were to not get a head coaching interview, he may be looking to move into an offensive coordinator position where he can call the plays. So it seems like Nagy's tenure, second round go here with the Chiefs is over. The problem with guys like McDaniel and Kingsbury is I just don't know if they're not going to get hired to be head coaches. Because here's the issue. These are the current head coaching openings right now. And this may not be an exhaustive list, because what if the Steelers go one and done again in the playoffs? Does Mike Tomlin get fired? I mean, other guys could potentially get fired here. You got the Dolphins, the Ravens. I was shocked by that one. I think they're idiots. The Giants, the Titans, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Raiders. That is 8 head coaching vacancies right now. Could go to 9 if Tomlin gets canned. I don't think anybody else in the playoffs is going to, somebody could resign. Who knows? But like at least 8 openings. So a guy like McDaniel, he's going to be sought after. Like Harbaugh is going to get one of those as long as he still wants to coach, and I think he does. That's, without question. But like, does McDaniel want to go and be an offensive coordinator for a year, or does he want to go coach Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? Does he like Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo in New York? Go to the Giants. Cam Ward with the Titans. I believe Matt Nagy is interviewing for that as well. He had not like an incredible rookie season, but not a complete disaster either. Does do one of these guys like him? The Browns have Shedeur Sanders. I don't think that's gonna. The Cardinals, not the most alluring job. The Raiders don't have a quarterback, but they have the number 1 overall pick. So like, these aren't all horrible coaching vacancies. The Dolphins have some pieces. The Ravens have, Lamar Jackson, for goodness sake, a good young quarterback and exciting offensive players, and Malik Neighbors for the Giants. So the Falcons with Michael Penix and Drake London. So these aren't horrible openings, and there's a lot of them. So as much as I would be very interested in both Cliff Kingsbury or Mike McDaniel in Kansas City, but they both might just move right into other head coaching jobs. Let me know what you guys think. Gary says we need a more assertive offensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how assertive or not assertive Matt Nagy is. I mean, I only see I'm not in the meetings, the installs, and none of us are. On the sidelines, he doesn't look particularly assertive. I read an article about him today that he's like a big heart guy. Maybe, maybe the Chiefs need, a lot of people say, well, let's bring EB back, or the Chiefs need what EB brought, some of that accountability. I don't disagree with that. I think that's important. You need people like that within your organization. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends if these guys strike out. But I don't know. Maybe Kingsbury. I think Mike McDaniel is going to be a hot item out there on the. I think he'll be in another head coaching job next year. Kingsbury's had his opportunities, so maybe he comes to Kansas City and working with Patrick Mahomes again is alluring to him, and Andy Reid. But the Chiefs may have to wait a little bit to see who strikes out. The other thing is you have to ask yourself, is Andy Reid, does he want to bring in a real innovator at his offense coordinator position when what we've seen in the past is him hiring guys that you're not really, right? Like Mike McDaniel is going to want to call plays probably, right? He's not going to. So is it going to be somebody exciting, or is it going to be like another Andy Reid retread that he feels confident with, that could speak his language and communicate plays for him? Because so that's the question. And I think that's the big question facing the Chiefs this year, is how much is Andy going to shift the way he coaches the offense? I know a lot of people think he's stubborn. Maybe he is, but he was the GM in Philly. And when he came to Kansas City, he realized that wasn't the best move for him. So it's not like this is a guy that's incapable of changing. He's changed his offense a bunch of times. They went from the Tyreek Hill offense to the offense we have today that won Patrick Mahomes an MVP. So I don't think that he's incapable of changing. But it's hard for me to see a situation where he brings in somebody like Mike McDaniel. But I think that would be cool. I mean, why not combine your offensive genius with the offensive genius of somebody else like that? You're just going to, just pick the best plays. I would love to see it. But stay tuned. That's why you need to be on arrowheadaddict.com 24/7, basically, this entire offseason, because this is going to be a hot offseason for the Chiefs. Changes are coming. Let's see. Kraken says, what about this? Spag leaves. Harbaugh comes as defensive coordinator and coach in waiting. Harbaugh's, how old is Harbaugh? I think he is a little bit older than maybe. All right. So he's 63. He's 63. Andy Reid's 67. So as a 63-year-old, look, that's an interesting idea. But the only way John Harbaugh is coming to coach the Kansas City Chiefs is if Clark Hunt fires Andy Reid today, because he's going to go into another head coaching job. I haven't heard anything that says he doesn't want to. And there's a lot of openings right now, so he could kind of pick a spot. I'll tell you what I would do if I was John Harbaugh, is I would call the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know they said that they're keeping Zach Taylor. I would be like, hey, it's me, John Harbaugh. I'd like to be your head coach. Are you interested? And then if I was the Bengals, I'd be like, yeah, Zach Taylor, you're fired. We're hiring John Harbaugh. That's where I would go, because he'd have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And then he could fix that defense. That's what I would do. We'll see where he ends up, though. If I had to guess, I don't know. I like the Bengals angle, because if you're Harbaugh, then you could stick it to the Ravens twice a year. And you know how to beat those guys because you know the team and the personnel, and you've coached Lamar Jackson. Like, who's the best person to coach against Lamar Jackson? It'd be Harbaugh. He could go to the Browns if he wants to do that, but then he'd be coaching the Browns. So I don't know how, that would be interesting, but I doubt he goes to Cleveland. He's at a front row seat for their dysfunction for 18 years. But back to the Chiefs. I really think the Chiefs can turn this thing around in a year. And so this draft is the most important draft of the Mahomes era. It's the most important draft since they drafted Patrick Mahomes. I've got a question for you. I want to hear from you guys in the chat after the break. And that is, how would you like to see the Chiefs approach their draft strategy? We already talked about it a little bit, but we're going to get to that in just a second. First, I got to let you know about our friends at Factor. You want to eat better, but you have zero time, zero energy to make it happen. Factor doesn't ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It just removes the entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, done. I've subscribed to Factor. You guys have heard me talk about it on the podcast. I'm raising a young son. He's 19 months old. When I'm done with this podcast, I'm gonna do a little bit more work. I'm gonna go get him from daycare. My wife's working. She's in the office. She's gonna be driving home. We're gonna be tired. We get a little bit of time with him each evening before he goes down to bed, because he goes down at 7:30. And if we're cooking and shopping and all that stuff, that's it, man. Like, you're doing dishes and the kid's going to bed and you got 15 minutes to play with him before he goes to bed. Factor's my solution to that. And the food is good. You're not failing to eat healthy. And you get the extra time every night. It's food made by chefs, designed by dietitians, and delivered to your door. And you heat it in 2 minutes. You eat it. You can do the microwave. We put it in the oven. And they've got pretty much everything you can want: lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, healthy fats, stuff that, you'd make if you had time. There's no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. It's real food. I love the Mexican stuff. It's all really good. They're like taco bowls. It's all in there, man. Mix it all up. I throw a little bit of Chipotle Tabasco on there. Absolutely fantastic. And they just get delivered, man, right to your door. Fits your life, not someone else's plan. They've got 100 rotating meals every week, so you never get bored. You can always have something a little bit different. High protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean, GLP-1 support, ready to eat salads. They got a new Muscle Pro collection. It's great. I love it because I go into my fridge and I'm kind of excited. I'm like, all right, what am I going to pick out? I do the meal. I select the meals myself, but they can do it for you, and you can just put your preferences in. But I like to select the meals myself. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go pot roast. I'm going to go, taco bowl. It's great. So definitely check it out. I use this product and you should too. So listen, head to factormeals.com/arrowhead50 off and use our code arrowhead50 off to get 50% off your first Factor Plus free breakfast for a year. I mean, if that's not value, I don't know what is. Offers only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthy eating easier with Factor. Again, that's code Arrowhead50 off to give great discounts at Factor. All right, back to it. Kraken says, second, Factor is good. I heard about it from this pod, tried it, and loved it. My man. Yeah, it's terrific. It's absolutely terrific. And man, it's just such a time saver. It really is. It's not, you're not eating some crappy, like salt loaded frozen meal that you're going to feel disgusting for having eaten afterwards. Okay. So how do you want the Chiefs to approach this draft strategy? I was already talking about it. Do you want them? Let me know in the chat, those of you that are active. Do you want to see them go defense or offense at number 9? Like, let's start with that. And I already talked through kind of the pros and cons there. Now, I've seen a lot of people are really excited about Jeremiah Love. And I do think he's a really good back. I just don't think you can. The Chiefs have too many pressing needs to take a running back that high. They just do. We know you can find good running backs, effective running backs elsewhere in the draft. There's plenty of evidence in that. If they were great at pass rusher and all set at wide receiver and the offensive line and all that stuff, then fine. That's a luxury pick. But you need you're never going to get a chance to get a blue chip pass rusher. And again, they might not even be there at number 9. They might need to move up. Same thing with like some of these stud kind of almost like slam dunk wide receivers. You can't find a wide receiver later in the draft for sure. DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf ain't Jamar Chase. Do you know what I mean? So if you think you've got a guy like that in one of these wide receivers, and I've just started my draft prep, but there's like 3 of them that could go in the top 10. You know me, I'm a Carnell Tate guy. Major Chip says, I want them to take Caleb Downs. That's the thing. When I do, and if you want to listen, if you want to learn about the draft and the players without having to watch a ton of film, I encourage you to sign up for Pro Football Focus's premium account. It's not cheap, but there's a lot of value there. Their mock draft simulator is really good. And as the offseason goes on, they're going to fill it with scouting reports, information about all these players, and analysis to help you learn about them. And then you can, you want to watch some film or something, you could see who else you want to look into. But you could I just sim mock drafts all the time. I do it on my phone before bed. I'm going to do a mock draft really quickly. And you can change the sliders. Like you want teams to draft more for need or to more for value and follow the board and all this stuff and see the different ways it could fall to you and who might be available. And again, like I said, it's a great way to learn about players that you don't know about because there's a billion people in the draft. Who's going to know about all these players? And it makes draft season more fun. It'll make listening to this podcast more fun because you'll develop favorites. And it's a great way to learn about, like, I got a guy who I'm interested in who's like a running back, wide receiver, fullback hybrid from Navy that I think the Chiefs should look at late in the draft. I'd never known who that guy was without Pro Football Focus. They don't sponsor this podcast, but it's just a great tool if you're into the draft and you want to be a little bit more tapped in and involved. It's fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. Major Chip says, I don't think there's a pass rusher valuable enough for them to pick 9th in the draft. Yeah, the kid out of Miami, I believe it's Bain. He ran my Buckeyes out of the playoffs. There's some concern about his arm length and things like that, but he looked like an alpha type to me in that game, man. He just kind of wrecked the game. So I want to watch a little bit more of him because that's only game I watched him in. He's really interesting to me, though. Brick says run game was non-existent. Why not take a running back? Plus the pass rushers aren't it this year. Look, I don't know. Maybe the pass rushers aren't premium enough, but I still think running back is just too easy to get good running backs elsewhere in the draft. Sometimes they're UDFAs. Look at Cam Scadaboo last year. He went in the 4th. He looked really good. Other guys, they could get somebody in the 2nd, especially if they trade McDuffie. When you pick in the top 10, you need to get a blue chip game changer. Now, look, some people think Jeremiah Love is a blue chip game changer, but from a supply and demand standpoint, I just look at this as a once in a hopefully decade opportunity that the Chiefs are picking this high. And hopefully they will not be this high again until Patrick Mahomes retires. So what do you want to do with that pick? I think you get the premium thing that you're not ever going to be able to get again unless you bet the farm and trade a bunch of picks to move up to try to get that guy. And if you look at what the Eagles have done over the years, they've gotten draft picks and they've invested in pass rushers and linebackers and things like that and cornerbacks to make their defense really good. This is one of those opportunities for the Chiefs. Get a game changer. If it's not one of the edge rushers and it's Caleb Downs, do you remember what having Eric Berry on the defense did for the Chiefs? I know that safety is not looked at as a premium position, and that's why somebody like Downs, as good as I think he is, might be available later, like when at number 9. I don't know. By the way, this is a live report. It's not a report. Mark Gunnels writes over at Arrowhead Pride, friend on Twitter. He tweeted my offensive coordinator wish list. Number 1, Mike McDaniel. Number 2, Nate Steelhase. And number 3, Cliff Kingsbury. Tyreek Hill responded to that tweet. And he said, Mike don't fit y'all scheme, buddy. Sorry to tell you. So Tyreek Hill, he's tapped in. He's looking around at what's going on. He says Mike's not a fit for what the Chiefs do. And to Mark's credit, Mark responded, the scheme is the problem. There needs to be outside voices coming in to shake things up. And that gets back to what we talked about earlier, which is, does Andy and does Mike McDaniel, do they want to try to marry their systems or do they want to do what they do? And I think you find people in the NFL, they can change, but they tend to kind of stick to what they do. So it's still going to be the Andy Reid offense. I just don't see the Mike McDaniel thing happening. Maybe, I hope I'm wrong. That could be really fascinating, but I just don't see it. All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. I got a meeting to get to. I appreciate you guys so much. Couple quick points of business. I didn't forget about our December giveaway. I know I was supposed to announce it on the first show of the for our members. I'm going to take care of that next week. Just have to figure some things out here. But mainly it was because I forgot twice and I didn't pick the winners yet. So we're going to do that. Don't worry. And we're not doing it in the off season, unfortunately, but we'll figure some other fun things out for members. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, check out the link in the description. It's a great way to support the show. You need to be reading arrowheadaddict.com every day. They're getting every shred of Chiefs related news on the website, arrowheadaddict.com. And you need to be listening to this podcast because we're going to have all the breakdown, the draft stuff, the analysis. You need to be watching the intangibles with Bryce Carter. He's doing like 100 prospects in 100 days. He's like eyeballs deep. And you think I was having fun with these mock drafts? I think Bryce Carter is just 24/7 mock drafting. He and Christian on the intangibles are going to have you guys filled in on what's going on in regards to these prospects. And watch some of the college football playoff games that are coming up here to get a look at the guy, the pass rusher from Miami that I talked about. He's going to be playing this week. You need to be watching it and check him out. And you could develop your own opinion on whether or not you think he could be a pick for the Chiefs. All right, I got to get out of here. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you to Verteram for hopping in. Check out his work at Sports Illustrated. Thank you to producer Joanne. My name is Patrick Allen. I'll see you guys next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.